Vitality in our later decades is rarely violently stolen. Rather, it gradually evaporates. Older adults seldom forfeit their longevity through catastrophic blunders or sheer misfortune. Instead, they surrender it through seemingly benign, practical daily routines. That is precisely the hidden peril. Behaviors masquerading as prudent self-preservation are frequently the exact mechanisms accelerating decline. Gerontologists emphasize a crucial reality. The most hazardous missteps after your 60th birthday are those devoid of any immediate alarm bells. Consequently, the ultimate dilemma isn't whether time alters your anatomy. That is an unavoidable biological certainty. The real question is distinguishing which stealthy routines are pilfering your tomorrows and which trajectories can still be pivoted starting this very minute. Beyond the age of 60, human biology tallies damage with a different calculus. Ignored maintenance snowballs, and deferred action demands a steeper toll, meaning what once registered as a trivial choice now dictates the duration and quality of your existence. Scientists overwhelmingly concur that enduring wellness isn't forged in the fires of draconian diets or flawless regimens. It stems from circumventing a handful of stealthy pitfalls that systematically siphon your robustness. Let us examine 5 of the most corrosive behavioral traps, beginning with the illusion of physical conservation. Trap number 5 is embracing a sedentary lifestyle under the guise of safety. For a multitude of retirees, anchoring oneself to an armchair feels like the ultimate responsible tactic. Reduced exertion translates to minimized falling hazards, mitigated exhaustion, and zero joint strain. It feels completely managed and incredibly logical. However, the physiological reality paints a starkly different picture. Your anatomy registers chronic immobility not as a sanctuary, but as a signal for atrophy. Consider Arthur, a 71-year-old former architect who always meticulously managed his well-being but decided retirement meant a permanent break. He dramatically curtailed his daily excursions, swapped brisk morning strolls for reading marathons, and prioritized the recliner. Initially, his body sounded no alarms, no aching joints, no flashing warning lights. Yet, incrementally, insidious transformations materialized. Navigating front porch steps required unprecedented effort. His center of gravity felt profoundly unreliable, and his physical self-assurance quietly dissolved. What Arthur failed to grasp is that the human framework acclimates to lethargy at a terrifying velocity. Medical professionals caution that prolonged sitting profoundly diminishes muscular density, creates sluggish vascular systems, stifles cellular oxygenation, and skyrockets the likelihood of cardiovascular anomalies and metabolic dysfunction. The adversary here is not relaxation, as recuperation remains biologically vital. The genuine threat is remaining entirely stationary for excessive durations. Physical exertion does not demand grueling marathons. It merely requires rhythmic consistency. Uncomplicated habits like standing during television commercials, meandering through the neighborhood, or indulging in fluid mobility stretches can fiercely safeguard your core strength and equilibrium. In your golden years, kinetic activity isn't a mere suggestion. It is your primary armor. Moving onward, trap number 4 involves resigning to fragmented slumber as an unavoidable biological destiny. An overwhelming number of seniors find themselves tossing and turning, enduring shallow, abbreviated, and continuously interrupted nights, operating under the widespread misconception that this is simply the inescapable reality of getting older. Physicians universally reject this fallacy. Subpar resting patterns are neither benign nor a burden one must silently shoulder. Slumber serves as your body's dedicated construction zone. It replenishes neural energy reserves, calibrates hormonal fluctuations, cements cognitive archives, and fortifies your immunological barriers. When nocturnal restoration is perpetually compromised, your systemic architecture quietly accrues microscopic damages. Inflammatory markers surge, mental acuity inevitably dulls, and the cardiovascular engine endures relentless pressure. As the months pass, this neglect massively elevates vulnerability to catastrophic ailments, spanning from neurodegenerative conditions to severe heart disease. The genuine hazard isn't enduring an isolated restless evening. The real danger is accepting chronic sleep deprivation as an irreversible sentence and refusing to intervene. Micro-adjustments yield monumental dividends. Establishing an unwavering bedtime, banishing digital screens before dusk, cultivating a tranquil sleeping chamber, and consulting physicians for underlying issues can forge a miraculous turnaround. Beyond 60, sleep transcends mere downtime. It is rigorous physiological reconstruction, and without it, long-term vitality collapses. Trap number 3 is harboring a chronic, simmering anxiety. This remains one of the most insidious and widely ignored stumbling blocks, primarily because it doesn't manifest as hyperventilating panic or dramatic life crises. Instead, it hums as a relentless, low-grade background static, a perpetual fretting over medical test results, retirement funds, familial obligations, or unpredictable futures. Because it lacks theatrical intensity, it feels entirely normal and thoroughly manageable, yet your cellular biology begs to differ. Neurologists clarify that advancing age compromises the body's innate shock absorbers, meaning even minuscule droplets of psychological tension, when dripped continuously, carve deep canyons of damage. Arterial pressure steadily climbs, the immune system weakens, the cerebral cortex weathers prematurely, sleep architecture crumbles, and daytime vitality evaporates. The most sinister aspect is that this psychological strain doesn't need to register as agonizing to inflict catastrophic harm. Its relentless consistency is the weapon. Countless older adults lug this invisible backpack of worry daily, utterly oblivious to its toll. Actively sedating your autonomic nervous system is therefore paramount. Uncomplicated interventions like diaphragmatic breathing exercises, immersing oneself in nature, dedicating time to restorative hobbies, or fostering authentic dialogues can effortlessly dismantle this silent weight. After 60, psychological serenity is never a frivolous luxury, it is a profound medical necessity. Trap number 2 is brushing off microscopic physiological shifts to avoid being labeled an alarmist, a tendency where countless older adults squander valuable time. Life-altering medical crises almost never announce their arrival with deafening sirens. They creep in on tiptoes, an uncharacteristic disinterest in dinner, lingering midday lethargy, a fleeting moment of vertigo, an atypical struggle to recall a noun, or a faint disruption in equilibrium. These whispers are effortlessly rationalized away. Individuals console themselves assuming it is nothing, promising to monitor it eventually, and desperately trying to avoid making a fuss. Medical experts relentlessly caution that this dismissive mentality is astronomically costly. Sniffing out anomalies in their infancy is the single most potent determinant of sustaining lifelong independence. The elders who celebrate the most birthdays are not hypochondriacs living in perpetual dread. They are simply deeply attuned observers. They catalog trivial deviations and pivot immediately, understanding that proactive curiosity typically unlocks remarkably straightforward remedies, whereas procrastinated denial almost always breeds insurmountable complications. Tuning into your biological broadcasts is not an expression of frailty, it is situational awareness, and that vigilance guarantees your longevity. Finally, trap number 1 is retreating into solitary autonomy, the most lethal and profoundly mischaracterized misstep of all, largely because it rarely resembles tragic loneliness. It usually masquerades as fiercely dignified self-sufficiency. Multitudes of seniors begin shrinking their social perimeters not out of a sense of isolation, but driven by a stubborn refusal to inconvenience loved ones. They cease initiating calls, routinely decline invitations, and stubbornly insist on navigating every hurdle unaccompanied. It feels honorable and highly considerate, yet over the years, this muted withdrawal unleashes devastating biological consequences. Consider Martha, a 74-year-old retired librarian, brilliant, fiercely capable, and resolutely self-reliant. Once her career concluded, she organically pruned her community ties. There was no explosive falling out, just a gradual fading, fewer weekend coffees, declining book club attendances, and an absence of shared neighborhood gatherings. Within a mere 12 months, profound transformations were glaringly evident. Her vibrancy plummeted, a gray melancholy settled over her demeanor, and her daily zest completely evaporated. Sociological findings on this phenomenon are utterly chilling. Chronic social starvation can truncate your lifespan with the same brutal efficiency as a smoking habit, ravaging both your psychological sanctuary and your physical vessel. The human brain craves external friction, the heart muscle physically thrives on empathetic bonds, and the entire organism resonates with purposeful companionship. Authentic bonding doesn't necessitate navigating chaotic crowds. It simply requires reliable, soulful touchpoints, a heartfelt voicemail, an engaging debate, reciprocal amusement, and the profound sensation of being genuinely comprehended. Hibernating in isolation might offer an illusion of serene comfort, but it silently bleeds away your life force. Not a single one of these 5 pitfalls feels reckless. They all masquerade as the safe, prudent path, which is precisely why their grip is so terrifyingly strong. After 60, leaning into what feels like the path of least resistance is rarely the strategy that fortifies your constitution. The routines that demand the least effort are consistently the ones eroding your muscle, muddying your cognition, and compromising your freedom. Yet, the profoundly uplifting reality remains: every single one of these downward spirals can be completely arrested and reversed. Microscopic, unwavering pivots yield explosive dividends. Demand slightly more kinetics from your body today, fiercely guard your nighttime restoration, cultivate aggressive pockets of tranquility, listen intently to your physical vessel's whispers, and anchor yourself tightly to the souls who matter. Physicians boil this down to an elegant maxim: fiercely defend the elements that defend your autonomy. Consistent kinetics, rigorous recovery, soulful bonds, and hyper-awareness are not optional upgrades. They are the concrete bedrock of a protracted, flourishing existence. Vitality isn't violently stolen. It gradually evaporates, one ignored routine at a time. However, the inverse holds equal truth. You can reclaim your horsepower inconspicuously, you can reconstruct your resilience quietly, and you can radically expand your timeline by recalibrating the tiny daily rhythms that sculpt your destiny. By sidestepping these 5 invisible traps, you don't merely stockpile additional calendar years. You navigate the world with unshakable poise, process thoughts with crystalline sharpness, and experience each breath with profound, electric presence. Mastering the art of aging is never about waging a futile war against the clock. It is about forging a profound alliance with your biology, and that monumental realization alone can gift you decades you never dared to anticipate.